What's interesting, Officer Eggers, is I think so many people have the illusion that I'm safe in my home.
Forever Young would like to acknowledge the support of these sponsors. The Fun and Fitness Travel Club, which began at a neighborhood pool in Fairfax County, has become a nationwide travel club for active adults. Led by certified fitness instructors Jim Seeley and Cynthia New, this dues-free organization travels worldwide on cruises and land tours, offering members free daily exercise classes in water aerobics, Tai Chi, yoga, deck walking, ballroom dancing, and sing-alongs. The website is fun-fitness.com and the phone number is 703-827-0414.
Hello and welcome to Forever Young. Today we are talking about the ever-increasing number of scams being perpetrated against local seniors. And by popular demand, we have again on our show Officer Alice Eggers of the Fairfax County Police Crime Prevention Unit. Welcome, Officer Eggers.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
Now, you've gotten to know our Forever Young TV viewers at our monthly luncheons at Fuddruckers and Annandale's. And I think that you'll agree they are a very smart, well-educated group of people.
Absolutely.
So they are not going to fall for your everyday run-of-the-mill scam, but there's some really ever-increasingly sophisticated scams out there. And what's funny is it only takes one to really, you know, wipe out someone's savings or bring them some real harm, even though some of our viewers will probably recognize most of the scams for what they are. All it takes is that one. So I'm going to ask our viewers to kind of stick with us, and if you say, no, I would never fall for that one, just stick with us, because if our viewers today learn just one thing that can either help them, or a lot of our viewers are actually a source of information for their friends, and they can share this with their friends. So stick with us. We're going to go through some of these, and you might be shocked at how sophisticated these criminals are getting. The internet is an incredible source of instantly available information, but so much of it is not necessarily reliable.
Correct. You get a lot of fraud scams on the internet. A lot of times what happens is we have what we call phishing scams, and essentially what happens is someone gets an email what is from what they think is their bank, you know, a big name company, and it has the logo, and people don't realize it's very easy to actually take that logo and put it on an email and send it to somebody. And we call it phishing because they're sending it out to hundreds and thousands of people, and what they're hoping is that one of you will have that particular bank, and you will actually reply to that email with your personal information, i.e. your name, your date of birth, your address, your social security number, your bank account information, credit card information. So they're just basically phishing, looking for that one person that's going to say absolutely.
And this is phishing spelled with a P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G. What's interesting is that I think the reason people do fall for this is that these emails often will say, unless you reply to this, your account will be closed, your service will be interrupted, you'll be reported to the credit bureaus as having bad credit. So it's very easy to say, oh, I don't want that to happen, I'd better fill out this form. Here's the official looking logo. You know, it looks very legitimate.
Absolutely, and they're playing on your emotions, they're playing on your fear. And it's not just the internet scams, but essentially if you get that immediate feeling and someone's like having that threatening type email, or if they're on the phone saying that you're going to be fined, it's all part of that scare tactic to kind of suck you in and to take you out of the element of thinking logically. So you automatically just say, okay, here's my information, please take care of it, make sure it's all better.
And all it takes is one of these. I mean, people can say, oh, I'm not going to fall for this Nigerian scam, you know, who would be so. But, you know, all it takes is one really official-looking email to say, oh, you know, I'd better take care of this right now.
Absolutely, and it can also be your credit card company. You get an email from what you thought was your credit card company, the same type of thing. And what I always stress to people is anytime you get those types of emails, phone calls, anything like that, go back to your own bill. So you should have your own filing
Right,
system,
mhm.
and you can pull that information up, and you can go to the website that they list at the bottom or the customer service number that they have, and you call them, and from there you can verify the information to find out if it was fraudulent or not. So I think that's the best thing to do, is to have a good filing system so that if you do get those types of emails, you can call your own bank and know it is the right number. Don't
Right.
always assume that it is.
Because I think we talked about this the last time that you were on, that a good rule of thumb is if you've called the person with the 800 number that you've got from your bill, then at that point, that's one thing. But if somebody's called you, you don't know who they are. What we was also talked about before is now people can have on the caller ID
Absolutely.
the name of the company that they're saying they're calling from, but they're not really.
Absolutely, and that's why I tell people the criminals have gotten smarter. They have the caller ID. There's the sound in the background of the computers clicking and the fingers tapping on the keyboards, and people assume that it is legitimate. That's why I always say, well, let me get you your name, and then I will call you back when I pull my own information from the customer service 1-800 number. Don't ever assume that the person that you're talking to is actually legitimate. Always, again, pull your own records and call that number.
And isn't it true, Officer Eggers, that no one would ever ask for your passcode over the telephone?
Correct. No one should ever be asking for that information. From the Social Security Administration to your bank, any personal information, your date of birth, your Social Security number, none of that information should ever be asked. And any legitimate company will not ask you that information over the phone, ever.
I've even heard of cases of people pretending to be police officers. For example, someone's purse is stolen from their car. Then the criminal will actually call the person up and pretend to be the police. We've apprehended the criminals, so they say. And all we need to do is for you to verify your PIN number of your credit card. Then they go to the bank and wipe out the account. And really, you know, if you put yourself in the position of someone, it's very emotional, their purse is missing. Oh, thank goodness you found the, okay, everything's going to be fine. Oh, yes, here's my PIN number. And then later on they think, how did I fall for that? I mean, it's in the moment, in the emotion, that our very sophisticated and intelligent viewers of Forever Young could fall prey to one of these schemes.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to, if you're getting that emotion, that fear, or that, oh, thank God, then maybe you should take a step back and reevaluate who you might be talking to. And again, an officer should never be asking for any of that information. PIN numbers, account numbers, credit card information, none of that information should ever, anybody should never ask you that over the phone, in person, anything like that. Guard that.
Okay, and another thing that's coming down the pike are these Medicare scams. Tell us what to look
Absolutely.
out for there.
The Medicare card scams, there's some discount card scams that are out there. And the bottom line is there's two different types of scams. Actually, one of them, it says that they're like a discount card and an exorbitant amount of money. And the bottom line is the federal government has regulated that. It can only be $30 annually for a discount Medicare prescription card. Okay, so there's that one side of it. Then there's the other side where someone calls saying they're with Medicare Part D, they've sent you information, they wanted to verify all that information over the phone. Again, the Social Security Administration will not ask you personal information over the phone, ever. Okay, they should have that in front of them, because if they're calling you, then they know your Social Security number, they know your date of birth. So again, no personal information over the phone ever, no matter who they're claiming they are.
And, you know, I know for myself, the decisions I later regretted, said, how could I be so stupid, were things in the moment I did it. So if there's any doubt, then just for people to say, you know what, I need to call you back in 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
And maybe they can call a trusted friend or family member or even the non-emergency number of the local police department and say, you know, I want to just check in on this for a minute.
Absolutely, and it doesn't do any harm. You can call the Crime Prevention Unit, again, the non-emergency number, and you can always talk to an officer, and basically they can probably pull information that you can verify who it is that is calling you or who you're talking to, or they can give you good tips to take you out of that emotional situation and say, Did they ask you these types of things? Shouldn't they have that information already?
And what's funny is that it's not funny, really. It's tragic. These criminals will actually say, "We don't have 5 minutes. We need to know right now. You've got to give me your PIN number, otherwise they're going to, you know, charge more money or something like that." So right away, that should be a huge red flag.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think our viewers hopefully will be a little too smart for that.
I think they are.
And just say, okay, I need to call you back in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
I think this can wait a little bit.
Absolutely. Take a step back.
What about, it used to be, I remember growing up when I was a kid, my parents would get phone calls from the local police department, local fire department. It's our annual drive. And you know, my dad would write a check and send it in, and that money would all go toward the local fire department or the local police department. That's all changed, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And the one thing that I tell people, anytime when I go out and I speak to seniors, or any group for that matter, I tell them pick 2 charities, whatever they may be, and donate to them, because you've already verified all the information. When you get the phone calls over the phone, and a lot of times these bad guys know that our seniors that are out there, they're very loyal to the police department, the fire department, and they do have a generous heart. And basically they're preying on that. So I tell people, any phone call that you get that says that they're with the police department or the fire department, why don't you send me the information by mail?
And I think that's true about any salesperson at all. You know what? I'm not going to make any decisions over the phone. Send me the information. I'll look at it. And I'll bet that 90% of the time that information is never going to come in the mail.
Correct, correct. And the one thing that you should also think about is if you're getting those phone calls over the phone, more than likely it's a hired telemarketing company, and you'd be better off just writing the check to the fire department yourself and taking it down there and handing it to them than doing something like that over the phone, because there's such a small percentage that actually goes.
Pennies on the dollar. What about, and going back to people thinking that they're safe in their home, you get the knock on the door, a very friendly, in some cases a very, you know, clean-cut person says, you know, I'm here in the neighborhood, I've been helping your neighbors clear their trees, do snow removal, put on an addition, and you think, well, this seems like a very nice young man. What are some things people should be aware of?
The biggest thing I tell people that they should be aware of is if someone's knocking on your door and they're selling windows, siding, roofing, tree limbing, whatever it may be, if you've not walked out of your home and said, you know what, I need to do that today, then you don't need what they're selling you. Because the bottom line is the person that's at your door may not be licensed, bonded, and insured, and you need to do the research yourself to follow up to find out who this person is. A lot of times they hand you a business card with a phone number that tells you nothing, because it's probably to a cell phone number that's not registered to anything. So the bottom line is, when you talk about construction or tree limbing or anything of that fact, always make sure if you're going to go down that road is get estimates. I prefer 3.
Yep.
Okay? Make sure that they're pretty close. Make sure you get a contract. Okay, a start time, an end time, those are crucial, and get specifics of what they're actually going to do.
And how can people check out the legitimacy of these companies?
You can go to the Fairfax County website. They have a consumer protection, consumer affairs, and you can literally pull it up by the company's name. So you can check on that information. And also, if they're going door to door, they should have a solicitor's license.
I think there's a common theme here, Officer Eggers, that when the people are calling and sending the email and knocking on your door, that's just a huge red flag.
Absolutely.
And if somebody does come to the door, maybe it's better for the person on the other end, the homeowner, to say, you know what, I'm going to call and check with several different companies, and if I decide to go with your company, I'll give you a call and let you know.
Absolutely, and I always tell not only seniors, but again, any group, that if you get a knock at the door and you're not expecting company or you're not expecting someone to come to your home already, then don't open the door if you're not ready to hug or kiss that person.
Right, and you were saying at one of our monthly luncheons that that lovely little latch that people think makes them so secure does not make them as secure as they think.
Absolutely not. And it's the same with the storm door. People assume that with the locked storm door that you're safe behind it and you can open up that door. That's not safe. That is not, basically that is just to keep the weather off the door. It's not to keep you safe inside. So again, if you're not expecting someone or you do not have, the other thing also, I forgot to mention is if you have Verizon, the gas company, whoever it may be, they should have some type of identification.
Yeah, photo
and you
ID.
can call Verizon or whoever, the cable company or the gas company, and verify who they've sent also.
Yeah, because they're usually, someone does not usually come to your door completely out of the blue unannounced. There's
Absolutely.
some warning of some sort. I mean, sometimes the person comes to read the meter, but they're not asking to enter your house.
Correct.
They just need to read your external meter.
Correct. If you're not expecting them, don't open the door.
Yeah, and that's especially so many of our Forever Young viewers do live by themselves. And you and your colleague, Officer Greg Cotterman, were on our show previously. Let's just briefly recap for our viewers what the two of you discussed about safety in the home. And I think a lot of our viewers were taken aback. What do you mean, keep all the windows and doors locked at all times? What am I in some sort of a fortress?
I think essentially when you talk about safety in the home, I think prevention is key. You should always, when you're leaving, you should always lock your doors and windows. If you come back home and your door's ajar and maybe you think the wind blew it open or maybe you didn't close it all the way, then that's when you call law enforcement. Let us check your home out and make sure that there's nobody in there. Don't enter a home if you know that it hasn't been secure. And the bottom line is that's all part of personal safety. Good lighting around the home, trimming of shrubbery, okay, being part of a neighborhood watch, knowing your neighbors, looking out for each other. If you're going out, let somebody know where you're going, when you're going to be back, so that way someone can follow up with you. Personal safety is key. And anytime that you go somewhere, whether it be a store, shopping at the mall, always be ready, always park in a well-lit area, have your keys ready, be aware, stand up, walk with your shoulders back, and walk with purpose. Get in the car. As soon as you get in the car, close the door, lock it, put on your seatbelt, turn on the car, and then if you want to move around packages, whatever it may be, you're secure in the car because you're ready to go.
And you know, we're so fortunate here in Northern Virginia, Fairfax County, Arlington County, Alexandria City, etc., that we have these gorgeous parks, and so many of our viewers love to take wonderful walks, and it's very refreshing. What are some guidelines that they should be aware of?
I think you should always have a cell phone. And I know a lot of seniors don't want a cell phone because they don't want the big plans and things like that. The one thing I always tell people is you can have a cell phone and have no service, no AT&T, no T-Mobile, no Verizon, no Cingular. But if it's charged and has bars, which means it has a signal, you can call 911.
At no charge.
At no charge, okay? It's mandated. So you should always have a cell phone with you. And again, it goes back to letting someone know where you're going, when are you going to be back, what is your normal path, okay? So if you don't come back, then we can come and look for you, okay? And it's being aware and not wearing the iPod or the, the Walkman, and being aware of your environment and look people in the eye and address them. How are you today? Because if you're a bad guy and I address you, in your mind you're thinking, she knows what I look like.
Also, it's nice to go with a friend or a relative.
Absolutely, safety in numbers.
Right, and that can be more fun. You can be walking and talking. One thing that our viewers that attended our monthly luncheon that you came to really liked what you said about the ICE number to program to the phone. So tell our viewers.
In case of an emergency. I also was a paramedic for Fairfax County. And the one thing that we tell people all the time, the in case of an emergency number, you can put that in your contacts. And again, you don't have to have the service to put that into your contacts. And what if you are involved in an accident? What if, you can't speak for yourself, you had a diabetic emergency? We can pull up that information on the phone, and it can be a spouse, it could be a brother-in-law, a sister-in-law, a family member that you trust that can basically come up to the hospital or to come out and pick you up, whatever it may be. And that way, it allows that extra level of security that we can find somebody and get a hold of somebody to come out and come get you or come meet you at the hospital, whatever it may be.
You know, Officer Eggers, we live in a whole new world now. We're hearing even of cases where in a wedding, for example, in a church, we have burglars coming in and stealing money and other valuables from purses that are left in the sacristy, and you think, oh, we're in a church, we can just kind of put our purse there.
Absolutely. And the bottom line is any purse, wallet, whatever it may be, always make sure that it's either with you or locked up and secured. If you're at a wedding, a lot of churches now, they even have safes, You can all put your items in a locked room in the safe. I also tell people, gone are the days where we address people. If someone comes into the church and you don't know who they are, or your place of work and you've never seen them before, can I help you?
Yeah.
Is there anybody I can find for you? And that way, again, if it is someone that is trying to do harm, then they may be caught off guard enough to go, no, 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 thank you, I was just leaving.
You know, we're so fortunate here in Fairfax County to have 9 wonderful recreation centers which are available, and they have a wonderful senior discount. But a lot of times I know in the men's locker room, a lot of the guys will actually put their belongings in the locker but not spend the money for the quarter or whatever it costs to lock them. And yes, maybe most of the time no one touches their stuff, but all it takes is one time for someone to go in and steal their valuables.
Absolutely. Pay the quarter.
Pay the quarter or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And one other thing, we had you on before, and we talked about when people take a trip, they go away on vacation, and I was really appalled in my own neighborhood, just going for a walk, and I was walking by a house, it was around a major holiday, and there were newspapers piled up. There were no cars anywhere to be seen. It's almost like they might as well put a sign on the house saying, "We are not home and haven't been for days." And how can people go away on vacation and make their home look more lived in and reduce their chances of their home being burglarized?
There's a couple things that you could do. First of all, I tell people, go to Lowe's or Home Depot, whatever you frequent, and buy the timers. They're very inexpensive. You can get a pack of 4 for probably $5 or $6. And you plug in lighting, a TV or radio, and that way it comes on at different times, and it looks like there's movement in the house or voices in the house. The dusk till dawn lights in the front are excellent because it comes on at night and goes off in the morning. Let your neighbor know that you're going to be out. Can you pick up my mail? Can you pick up the newspapers?
Because they'll do it for them when they go on vacation.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, no matter how many times that you try to cancel your paper, they're still going to deliver
Well, plus
it.
you get these free weekly papers that come
Correct.
that you can't even cancel those. It takes an act of Congress probably.
Absolutely. So it's good to get to know your neighbor and have them pick up those types of items. The other thing that I think is great now is they even have motion detector lights that are done on a sensor where the light will go off in, let's say you have your motion detector light in the back of the house. It'll set a timer off inside the house that 30 seconds, a minute later after the motion detector light went off, the light will come on in the house.
Okay, all right.
So I think they're great.
That could be a very good investment. One final question for you. I'm so sorry we're out of town. But if somebody does think that, you know what, I think somebody slipped through the cracks here and I may have been had, I may have fallen prey to one of these scams, I may or may not be the victim of a crime, someone may have my credit card information that shouldn't have it, how should they proceed at that point?
At that point, I think if you're confused and you're not quite sure, you can always call your local law enforcement. There's always a non-emergency number at any of the jurisdictions. Call them, have an officer respond. More than likely, if you have been a victim of a scam, they're going to refer you to the Financial Crimes Unit, and they will take a report. They can take them over the phone, they can take them by internet, things like that. But the bottom line is they can give you resources, internet, websites, phone numbers, and basically kind of get you on your way to kind of getting everything back to normal if you have been a victim of identity theft or a victim of some other type of scam or crime.
Well, Officer Eggers, we always love having you on our show. Our viewers really enjoy your participation both in our show and at our monthly luncheons at Fuddruckers and Annandale. And we hope to have you on again. In the meantime, though, what we do is we will have, we actually do now have your contact information on our website, so people could call you or send you an email if they had any questions, because I'm sure you've sparked some ideas. And I would also encourage our viewers to share this information. Maybe you have an older friend or relative that may need to be brought up to date about these ever increasingly sophisticated methods these criminals and scam artists are using to separate you from your money and put you at danger. So please continue to stay in touch with our website, foreveryoungtv.org. Also, on our website, we have my email address, jseeley@aol.com. You can send me an email and request to receive periodic updates. Sometimes Officer Eggers in the Fairfax County Crime Prevention Unit sends me information about current scams, and I like to forward these on to our viewers. And unlike so many of these emails flying around the internet these days, there is a verifiable source to these emails, and they are very accurate and up to date. So thank you again, Officer Eggers. Thanks for all the work you and your fellow officers do to keep the local citizenry safe. And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Forever Young.
Production facilities provided by Fairfax Public Access, Fairfax, Virginia.